Okay, so let me jump into this. We've got a lot to cover in a short amount of time. I'm going to finish the presentation and the demo within our 30-minute window, but I'm going to stay online for as long as you have questions. So if you don't get a chance to ask your question and you want to linger a little after, I'll be here. All right. Let's move a few windows around so I can see what's happening. And okay, so these are actual examples of reviews from users, specifically of the Android version of the Uber app, I think from 2022. So this is a data set that we're going to be working with. But I want to kind of give you a sense of what some of these look like. These are copied and pasted exactly as they came in the data set. So there's one. All right, here's another one. Affordable ride, needs improvement. So they're not always positive or negative. They may be both. Um, they have typos. They're going to have a little bit of additional information, and they require a little bit of insight to try to exactly understand what it is that they're trying to say. And frankly, not all of them are in English. And there's also, weird characters that come through as well. So what we're going to try to do today is we're going to try to turn this mess of customer feedback into gold nuggets. How do we find those from that raw customer feedback? And in this example, these gold nuggets we want are actionable strategic insights. So we want to be able to mine through this data set, which is not clean, and find some actionable strategic insights to come out of it. I should also mention, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll look at those when we finish. And then you can always ask questions at the end by coming off mute and just shouting them out. Okay, so I'm going to start this demo with a CSV file. The original file was 5,000 rows. I've cut it down to 500 for expedience. And it includes 4 columns. Very simple data set, but it's not clean. It includes the review, right? So that's the text that I just showed you a few examples of. A score, 1 to 5 stars, a timestamp, and the app version that they are commenting on. Okay, so we've got a CSV file with those fields. So let me jump into the demo, but before I do, let me just sort of walk you through how I'm going to step through this demo. I'm going to ask ChatGPT. So I'm going to use ChatGPT in this demo. If you've ever been to any of my other Lightning lessons, I mostly use Claude. I wanted to use GPT to mix it up a little bit, and also because I do think that GPT is actually maybe a little bit better sometimes at going through these large data sets. I'm going to ask it to give me a data overview. What are we working with? Then I'm going to ask it to give me some basic sentiment analysis. Then we'll try to extract some themes. We'll try to understand if there's some impact based on version. We'll get some feature requests, and then we'll ask for the strategic insights, which is kind of where some of the power comes from. Time permitting, I'll take some audience participation if there's other queries you want me to make on the data set. So if you have some in mind, think about those, and I'll do those if we have time. Okay, so with that, let's jump into the demo. Let me switch my sharing window over to ChatGPT, and let's start. All right, let me move things around again so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so what I'm going to show you today, right, is how we can transform hundreds of, in this case, of 500, of these scattered customer reviews into clear strategic insights in minutes instead of what would typically take hours or likely even days. So we're going to use these 500 real Uber reviews to demonstrate how AI can identify patterns, opportunities, and issues that would be very, very difficult to spot manually. So my first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to load in my CSV file. So it's loading that in. Good. And instead of manually reading through all of these 500 reviews, I'm just going to have AI do a first pass and give me an understanding of what we've got, what are our users thinking, and let's just get a first sense of the data that we're working with. So the prompt that I've got queued up and ready, let me paste it, and then I'm going to read it so we all understand what we're talking about. I've uploaded a CSV file containing Uber user reviews. Please analyze this file and provide some basic statistics, total number, average rating, the date range, and the most common app versions. I want to see 3 to 5 representative sample reviews that showcase different sentiments and topics. I want to understand the distribution of the ratings, and I want some initial observations that might be interesting for a product leader. Okay, so we're going to let it go and start working on that. We'll give it should only take maybe another 10 or 15 seconds, and we'll start getting some results, assuming the demo gods are going to be favorable today. Bristol, UK, welcome. Yeah, so there was a question about sharing the prompt. I will. I'm going to send an email out actually to all attendees a little bit after the session with the recording and all the prompts. So those will be included as well. Okay, so we've got a representative sample. Oh, this is interesting. It gave me one in what looks to be Arabic. Um, and some statistics. We've got 500 reviews, good. Average rating is 4.13. This date range, because I just grabbed it in sequential, is basically about a 24-hour period of time. I said 2022 before, I was wrong. It's 2024. Apologies. Most common app versions. So most people are on the newest version, 327 of those reviews, but there's still some stragglers. This is interesting, right? The rating distribution. So there's certainly a strong skew towards 5-star, which is great. But there's also a lot of 1-stars. So it's very sort of bimodal. Um, uh, we have a few that we can look at to view some sentiment and themes. We'll get to that in a second. Initial observations, highly skewed, right? Great, 5 stars. But understanding the context is going to be important. Negative reviews, lower ratings often mention detailed, actionable problems, especially with food delivery, driver behavior, etc. App versions, compressed date range, all reviews span just 2 days, and language and localization. Okay, good. So we've got some basics here. Let me go to starting our basic sentiment analysis. So similarly, let me paste in the prompt I have queued up. Analyze these Uber reviews and categorize their sentiment beyond the numerical rating. For each sentiment category you identify, I want you to provide me with a key characteristic, approximate percentage of reviews in that category, common phrases or language patterns, and one example. And what I'm going to have it do is I'm not going to have it look at everything. I'm going to have it just look at about 20 rows. So I'm just going to quickly open the data set and just copy and paste 20 rows of data. All right, sample reviews follow. Let's paste those in there. Okay, so those are all pasted in there. And as you can see, it's got the review, worst application, the rating, the date, timestamp, and the version. Doesn't look like the version came through on this one, but all the other ones it did. Okay, so let's go ahead and ask it to do this analysis. So, well, this is interesting. We can go beyond the numeric star ratings and break it into 5 distinct categories. Enthusiastic praise. Okay, good. And it's approximating because remember, I only gave it a small sample, right? Positive but generic. Okay, good, best, nice app. Constructive criticism / mild frustration. Okay. Severe discontent. And let's see what the fifth one is. Unclear or ambiguous. Okay. Reviews that are too vague or symbolic to interpret clearly. It might be a single emoji or slang. Okay. Not a lot of those, so that's good. Some examples. Observational insights. This is actually really interesting. I want you to realize, so some 1-star reviews actually appear under 5-star ratings, indicating possible misclicks or UI-related confusion. There are a few reviews when I inspected the data set a little more closely that say things like, terrible app, this is awful, and they gave it 5 stars. So clearly there's a disconnect in what they meant to rate it. But AI found that. AI can tease that out and see that. Short form reviews dominate the sample, which may limit the usefulness. Sentiment-rich reviews are high signal for product and ops team. Okay, so notice how the AI is detecting nuance beyond just the star ratings. identifying the difference between users who are upset about pricing versus those that are disappointed by either driver behavior or app functionality, right? If you're just looking at stars, you're not going to really get the right insights that you need. Okay, so let's go now to theme extraction, right? We just did some sentiment analysis. Let me copy the prompt that I want to use. Analyze these Uber reviews and identify the top 5 recurring themes or topics. For each theme, provide the approximate percentage of reviews mentioning it. For each theme, extract representative examples showing different perspectives, highlight any surprising or non-obvious connections, and note any differences in themes between higher and lower rated reviews. And just so it doesn't only look at those 20 rows, I'm just going to, if I can, grab and reload the data set in that I did from before. Good. All right, let's let it go. So it's analyzing now, and again, we're trying to extract some themes out of this data set. Taking a couple minutes because it's looking at all 500 rows. Now you can see why I didn't want to do it on the whole 5,000 row data set. Um, Certainly not waiting a lot of time, but would be enough that it would well, drag this out, I think, too long. So hopefully it's going to come back with something here in a moment. Questions? No. Okay. All right. Ride experience. 24% of the reviews. Very bad experience, best experience ever. Okay. App quality. 22%. Some representation. The insight, the app's usability, and technical performance are major trust drivers. Okay, that's interesting. Driver behavior and professionalism. Positive reviews often emphasize friendly and punctual drivers. Negative ones cite driver unavailability or rudeness. Okay, that's kind of what we would expect. Perceived timeliness, both wait and trip duration, contributes heavily to user sentiment. Okay. Issues around customer support access and clarity of billing show up, especially in low star reviews. So high ratings despite complaints, several reviews expressing frustration, which may indicate app UI confusion, right? They're giving a high rating, but a very poor review. Habitual overrating, they just don't pay attention, or potentially they just misclassified on their own. Overlap in keywords, indicating that user perception is holistic, intertwining the tech and the people and the logistics. As you would expect, your customers aren't going to be able to tease out what's an app issue versus a driver issue versus a service issue. Thematic differences. Great. Okay. Do we want charts or word clouds? We're going to skip that, but we certainly could. So what's really important here to realize is that we're seeing patterns that ChatGPT is able to discern that would usually be very, very difficult for us to find in those 500 rows. And if we could, it would probably take several hours to do that. Also, I want you to notice that AI is not just counting words. It's not just counting keywords. It's actually understanding conceptually what the language is trying to convey. And so even when it's expressed in different ways. So it's a great way for a product manager to really try to understand what truly matters to their users. Let's do a quick check on version impact. So for my next prompt, from these Uber reviews, analyze the impact of different app versions. Identify which app versions received significantly better or worse feedback. Highlight specific features or issues. Identify any patterns in user sentiment. And recommend which previous changes had the most positive impact. Concrete changes user notice rather than general sentiment. So now what we're trying to do is really get a better understanding of, did we break something in a version, or did we fix something because older versions are having more issues? This is great when you suddenly start to see a dramatic change in either number of reviews or sentiment of reviews, being able to try to tie that back to what changed. Was it a version? Was it something in the service? Was it surge pricing at that time, holiday, etc.? So We can see any changes that resonate with users and which ones created some frustrations. Okay, so the average rating on our newest version was pretty high. Lots of best, excellent, no major issues reported. They're short, implying no friction. Okay, that's good. Noticed a smoother overall experience and fewer issues. Um, and then this was the next one. Lowest here. It's only 6 reviews, but basically saying location permission failure. Post update disrupted booking ability. So maybe that's an issue we knew, and that was part of the fix. Booking failures, payment integration issues. Okay. Certainly, we're seeing gradual improvement from 4.3 to 5.0 to 5.1 to 5.3. And the technical complaints dropped. Okay, good. We're doing the right thing. That's always good to know. Let's get past this and let's look at what's next. Let's talk about features, right? So let's have it give me some suggestions on some features so I can start to, prioritize either what's in the roadmap or the kind of testing we might do. Um, for these Uber reviews, identify the top 5 most requested features or improvements, how frequently each is mentioned, the specific pain points driving each request, which app versions they're most associated with, and a potential implementation approach. Okay, so the idea here is as a product manager and as a product leader, I always struggled trying to prioritize feature requests. You have this issue of, the noisiest is the one that gets the most attention, or the one that comes from the, most recently, or the one tied to the biggest deal. And so AI will quickly show us not just what the users want, but also why they want it and how pervasive the need is. So we can really start to get a better sense of what features we should be looking at and prioritizing. Okay, customer support access, sample complaint, payment issues, and it goes on from here. Okay. And in the interest of time, I want to make sure we get to the last step. Okay, final thoughts, visual dashboard note, we're okay. I wanted to generate some strategic insights. So this is really where I think the most impressive piece starts to come in, how AI can generate not just feature requests and lists and looking at that, but can it actually generate some actionable insights? So based on this, provide 3 non-obvious strategic insights about user needs that might inform product strategy, 2 potential competitive advantages Uber could develop based on user feedback, 3 specific product improvement recommendations with expected impact on user sat, and 1 potential risk or emerging concern that might not be immediately apparent to the product team. Users want trust recovery, not just reliability. Okay. Uh, when users have a positive experience overall, they mention billing issues or unexpected charges. What they really want isn't just error-free payments, they want a path to resolution. Okay, that's really interesting. Invest in trust recovery mechanisms, quick refunds, visible support access, and ride satisfaction checks. Emotional satisfaction is often driven by driver interaction. Many of the highest rated reviews are brief but emotionally positive, and they often center on the driver, not the app. So the human part of the experience is still key. Product investments that empower and highlight drivers can amplify emotional sat and NPS. Generic praise can mask underlying frustrations. Some 5-star ratings include complaints, and some 1-star reviews are oddly polite, suggests that the rating system may not really reflect true sentiment. Could be some UX confusion or just maybe it's user habits. So use a sentiment-based feedback system, right? Maybe emojis alongside these, or certainly continue to do this kind of an analysis. You're not just relying on the numbers. Potential advantage, context-aware in-ride customer support, transparency first pricing, add a dedicated help with this ride button, real-time driver availability map, intelligent pricing breakdown preview. There's a lot of complaints we had heard earlier about what's the price and the price changed and that kind of stuff. Misleading star ratings is an emerging risk. Okay. I've only got 8 minutes, so I'm going to skip the audience participation part if you guys are okay with that, and allow me to come back to my PowerPoint. I've got just a few slides to try to land this plane, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. Wonderful. Okay. Uh, Good. So we went through and we did all of these steps. So what's the guidance if you want to go and take this back to your company, your business, and implement this yourself? A few things. Data collection. Look at all the places, app stores, in-app feedback, customer service logs. Whether you're a B2C or a B2B company, you're going to have customer feedback in various different places. So go and find that. Next, effective prompting. Notice how I gave real clarity around the structure of the prompts. I gave it some quantitative parameters. I said, give me the top 5 priorities, give me 1 risk. Multi-dimensional analysis. I asked it to look at different factors, not just the review or the rating, but the sentiment and the uh, version. Business relevance. I was asking for things that are relevant to actual business. So I'm interested certainly in what the reviews are saying, but I'm really interested in what does that mean for me? What's the insight I drive from that? How do I find a strategic insight from that? Validate those insights, right? So you never want to take what's from AI and just run with it. You're always going to want to validate. So triangulate this with multiple data sources, right? I asked for examples always, but still triangulate. Get subject matter experts to look through this, right? If person at the customer service says, this is totally not what I see, well, that should raise your suspicion and maybe look into it a little bit more closely. Verify with a representative sample, test some hypotheses, and then start to look at anything you're doing. If you're doing releases, or maybe there was a change, look at some different dates of reviews. Was there an impact? And then as you get more and more confident, you can start to rely more and more on the output from AI to help make some strategic recommendations. And last but not least, you want to start to do this as part of your regular workflow. Establish some regular cadence, weekly, monthly, where you're going to go and look at the newest reviews and see how that informs anything new. Create some standardized reporting out of this. Integrate where you can with any existing tooling that you have. Look at cross-functional review sessions, right? Run the analysis, get a report, and then pull in a cross-functional team to look at it and review it and talk about it. Create some action pathways. So based on what you see, what are the actual actions we can take? Get a feedback loop, and then start to document this stuff as well, right? So start to document insights so that the learning you have on mistakes made back 6 months ago don't get replicated 6 months from now. AI generated insights should be seen as intelligent hypotheses, not absolute truths. Okay, this is a scientific approach here. Intelligent hypotheses. The goal here is to accelerate the insight discovery process while maintaining some rigorous validation practices. One of the hardest things that it is for us humans to do is to look at data and derive an insight. We can look at data and see some trends. We can look at data and see patterns. But to then say, okay, what's the insight from that is really, really difficult. I spend a lot of my time teaching business school students strategy, and the hardest thing they have is they can use the frameworks, they can understand what's the situation the company is in, but to then derive an insight from that and a strategic recommendation, very difficult. AI can help with that. Key takeaways. AI doesn't just summarize, it can discover non-obvious connections. The quality of insights depends on asking the right questions. Garbage in, garbage out. This approach, while I only did it on 500, will scale to thousands of reviews. And when you're starting in, when you get to thousands, it's impossible to do manually. You still need to apply product sense and product management judgment to evaluate and prioritize, right? There still has to be that human review in there as well. So I want to challenge each and every one of you to go back to your work environment and do this. Start with a simple export of some reviews somewhere, whether it's app store reviews if you're a consumer facing app, whether it's customer feedback from your support team. Maybe it's a bunch of feedback you've gotten from sales over time and you have these call logs or transcripts, right? Get a bunch of information. Use ChatGPT to generate some initial themes, create a regular cadence, integrate those with your product planning process. So start making that a feed input to your product planning, and then make sure you're doing a feedback loop at the end to make sure that your AI generated insights right? Or matching any other data sources you have as well. Quick plug, and then I'll be done and go to Q&A. I've got a course. I've run 4 cohorts. I have a few more scheduled called Build an AI Confident Product Team. Transform from AI curious to AI confident product leader in 3 weeks. No technical experience required. The course, I have a cohort starting this coming Monday, one starting in early May, one starting in early June. There's a $100 discount for attending today with that promo code. The QR code on the right, if you just snap it with your phone, that'll take you to the sign up page already with the discount applied. Who's the class designed for? The class is designed for product leaders, senior level product managers who are aspiring leaders, and startup founders. Okay. What's included? You'll get 6 interactive live sessions, lots of live demos just like this, 15 in-depth lessons, 4 projects, direct access to me throughout the entire course, plus a one-on-one session with me in preparation for your final project, and a course certificate. What you'll learn: how to use AI to improve your effectiveness as a product leader, how to help your team upskill on AI, and a few other things in there, and how to stay AI capable going forward. There's a link to an email template and a Slack template in my FAQs on my course page if you want to get reimbursed from your employer. Refund, Maven provides a guarantee. I also provide a guarantee. If you go through the first 2 live sessions and you're like, Michael, this isn't for me, or this isn't what I expected, no problem. Full refund, and we're good. Quick bit about me. I'm a UCLA grad from engineering school and business school. I've worked at a bunch of tech companies, large tech companies: Sony, Qualcomm, T-Mobile, ProQuest, Here Technologies. I teach at Maven, but I also teach at University of Washington Foster School of Business and the Seattle University Business School. And why do I teach? I teach because I love helping product managers and product leaders get the most, sorry, out of what I consider to be the best job in the world. I will leave it at that. I'm going to leave this screen up for a few minutes if you want to scan the code, and I'm going to open it for questions. Just unmute and talk. I'm going to look through the chat and make sure I didn't miss any. If you arrive late, I'm going to email out later today the recording along with the prompts, so you'll have those as well.
Hello, Michael. It's Mark from Bristol here. How you doing?
Hey, good, thanks. How are you, Mark?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Really interesting talk. Really informative, I thought. I had a question in terms of like, so you framed it as you start off by not finding your feet, not quite trusting the output, making sure you verify it, all that sort of thing. And I wondered, in your experience, if you've applied this into a work environment, sort of how long does that process take, like for you to kind of, I guess you've got to get the team to buy in, you've got to make sure that you're analyzing the right content in the right manner, you're prompting in the right way, and I guess what's the sort of timeline for that? Do you feel is a fair estimate?
Um, it can be very fast. Like, I think that many of the insights we got just out of this demo were likely very relevant and applicable. Of course, we'd have to ask product people in Uber at that time. But I think it actually can be quite fast. I think the biggest risk is biasing by the data you provide. So, for
Right.
example, if you're only providing user reviews from the Android app, okay, well, I'm going to obviously have a bias of I'm not getting any reviews from anybody who's using the iPhone app in this example. If I only go to, customer service, am I missing any other ways that we're getting user feedback? So if you really want to make sure you have a representative sample of all the different ways in which feedback can come into your organization. I think that's the biggest thing to watch for.
Okay, that's really helpful. Good answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? You can ask me about anything. The demo, the class. I'm calling from Seattle, Washington, since I didn't type that in the chat. All right. Any other questions? I said I'll stick around, but if there's no other questions, feel free to type it in the chat if you don't want to unmute or unmute. Your choice. Ooh, totally random question. Why is PM the best job in the world? I'm slightly biased. I built my career as a product manager. I'll tell you why I love it. Uh, it's always different. It's in the center of everything. It's uh, you have a lot of responsibility. You interact with every single function in the organization and customers, and you get to help create and drive a vision. And so it's really cool when what you're envisioning comes to life. When you see your product ship or your feature updates launch, it's an amazing feeling and an incredible uh, sense of satisfaction. Yeah, and gratification. So that's why I love it. But it's not for everyone. It's usually you're very busy. It can be a lot of pressure at times, and a lot of juggling and firefighting. So, any tools to easily scrape reviews off of a competitor site to do this? Um, Not that I know of. I will tell you this data set I got from a site called Kaggle, Kaggle, and they have data sets that have been procured in acceptable ways, and made available. So there's a bunch of data sets on there. Um, you're not going to find anything from a competitor that's current, because of course that's going to be highly sensitive. I'm sure there are ways to do that, but not that I know of personally. I will say that from a product manager perspective and from a student and professor of strategy perspective, we often over index on how much we pay attention to our competition. You do need to pay attention to your competition, no question about it. But I don't think we need to worry too much about them like we typically do. Certainly because we don't want to be chasing what they're doing. Because if we're chasing what they're doing, that's not a strategy. That's just simply doing me too, and we'll never beat them at that. What we want to do is we want to understand what it is they're doing and then do something different. We want to differentiate in some way. Easier said than done, I get it. Um, but I would much rather have insights from a number of customer interviews or prospects, and put that data to analyze than have my competitors' user reviews. I would gratefully, I would gladly take the competitor reviews. Um, but I don't know if they're as important or as valuable, I think, as we might often think. Makes sense. I work in advertising on a fashion brand. Yeah, so finding pain points with my competitors and making attack ads. Yeah, sure. Um, uh, but I suspect, you can find that in other ways, right? But running your own surveys or things like that out there. But I think, figure out what makes your client unique and different, and lean into that and focus on uh, positive ads about why they're different and why that matters versus attacking, maybe. Um, a thing we often see in strategy is, some of the best companies that do this, they will look at things that most people would consider a liability, and they'll try to turn that into an asset that works for them. A good example we do in one of the case studies is Best Buy. And if you look at like 2015 or so, Best Buy was just getting hammered because basically everyone was going into Best Buy, shopping around, and then buying it on Amazon. And Best Buy was like, okay, we're going to lean into it. And first of all, we're going to match the pricing. Okay. But we're also not going to shut that down. If somebody wants to come in and look and touch and feel and then buy it on Amazon, fine. But where can we be better? Well, we have people in store that can help you with information. We have warranties that we can provide you. We have service plans. We have our Geek Squad if you need help with it or want to get it set up. We also have trade-in. We also have recycling when you bring your old television back. We also have accessories that we can sell. And so what they did is they turned this liability of that they became sort of the showroom floor for Amazon, and they flipped the switch or flipped the script and tried to turn it into an asset. That's just one example. Any other questions? No? Okay. If you have any questions, you can always follow up with me, Michael at breakapencil.com, or just reply to any of the emails that come from Maven through Maven from me. And thank you all for your time. I do really appreciate you spending time with me today. I wish you all a great rest of your day and a wonderful weekend. And thanks again. And look for the email with the recording and the prompts later today. Thanks, everyone.